Most Americans, by the way, in my district, nearly 70% of my constituents do not itemize. Of the filers, they don't itemize. So what matters to them are rates. So what's going to happen to those folks, many of whom are just working and middle class and in many cases lower income people, they're going to see a doubling of their standard deduction and their rates will come down.
Republican Congressman Charlie Dent of Pennsylvania touting the GOP tax plan after it passed in the House on Thursday. That bill is now slated for a Senate vote after lawmakers return from Thanksgiving break. Well, so far, one Republican has said he's voting against it, and no Democrats are backing that bill. Joining me now, Democratic Congressman Lloyd Doggett of Texas. He serves on the House Ways and Means Committee. Sir, thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday morning. And you heard Congressman Dent there. Republicans arguing this bill will bring relief to the middle class. It'll lead to an economic boom. It'll also just simplify filling out tax forms. Do you see any upside to any of the measures in this bill?
Very little, and no upside for the 1 in 4 Texans, the 36 million people across the country who will have higher taxes as a result of this bill. I view the bill as really a giant political lifesaver, life preserver for Republicans who've been unable to get anything else done this year and haven't given a lot of thought to the real impact on Americans of adding so much debt, trillions of dollars of additional debt, and targeting most of the benefits to go to corporate America.
So you're saying that it's just a political ruse to get a win in the column before the end of the year?
I think that's the major purpose. There's no doubt that tax breaks for the wealthy have been the Republican holy grail for years. This one's particularly poorly designed. The economists and objective academic experts note that it will not produce growth because so much additional debt is added. But I just think about the practical consequences. Representative Dent is correct that there's some people that would be benefited by the change in the standard deduction. But some people who are relying on not itemizing today, if they have a student loan come due and they have substantial interest due on it, if they have a family member with Alzheimer's or other dread disease where they need to deduct their medical expenses, they will come out a loser in this. And of course, in many states, losing the ability to deduct state and local taxes means for those middle-class families, they'll be paying more.
Yeah. How about small businesses, though? I mean, their tax rate would go down from 39% to 25%, and even the National Federation of Independent Businesses, who did initially oppose this bill, now giving its blessing. Is this a win for small businesses?
Well, I do think the focus should be on small business. So many of the benefits in what I think is really a job-killing bill are going to these large multinationals. I've always thought it was just basically wrong that Pfizer could pay practically nothing on some of its earnings, but my corner pharmacy was paying near 35%. So I'd say it's good to bring down the overall corporate rate sum as long as it's paid for by doing something other than borrowing from the Chinese or demanding more taxes out of the middle class. The provision the NFIB is concerned with are the pass-through provisions. And most small businesses already benefit from lower rates. There is real danger that without adequate tax avoidance abuse provisions, that those provisions will be exploited by people like Donald Trump, real estate developers who would like to pay substantially less than even they're paying now on their personal income.
So in essence, you're saying that major corporations, they're flush with money, they don't necessarily need a big tax break, but Republicans are arguing that lowering the tax rate for corporations will in turn bring more jobs back home. It'll raise employee salaries. What do you say to that line of argument?
Well, I say that with all the cash they have now, we haven't seen that substantial increase in salaries, except for those at the top. The CEOs seem to be walking off with such an incredibly greater portion of any salary increases than the ordinary white or blue-collar worker. And the big concern I've had is the exporting jobs, the outsourcing of jobs provisions. This bill sets up an incentive. If you are an investor with one of these major companies, you will pay little or nothing in taxes if you build your factory abroad. But even at their rate, you'll pay 20% in the United States. It sets up a major incentive to say, invest abroad, don't invest in America. It's the exact opposite of what President Trump said he was for last year. and what he's been saying about bringing jobs to America. This will export jobs to America. Of course, Donald Trump himself and his family, they're going to pocket more than $1 billion personally. This is about him. He had every reason to come over to the Capitol and celebrate because he's walking away personally with his family with some really big benefits from this bill. We don't know how much because the Republicans keep colluding to hide his tax returns.
Well, Democratic Congressman Lloyd Doggett of Texas, thank you very much.